High Advocate Potak, Minister Raylan, Princess Indara, I'm honored to receive your Royal Highness and your family. The Adixi swept up from behind her desk and bowed, before nodding to the other woman in the room. This makes 2 royal encounters today, a most propitious circumstance. How may I be of service to the state? We missed her twice? Slip muttered. I don't believe this. Riley means that we hope to find Princess Clara in your company. Indara politely spread her hands to the advocate's office and smiled demurely. I had not expected to find you here, Minister. I called the palace and was told you were coming. The old court is rather near to the peristyle. With my office so near and needing to see you in the company of the High Advocate, I thought it would be rather more expedient. At least something is, Slip scowled. Not helping. Adam slid his arm about her waist and squeezed. Though I can't blame her. We were up well before dawn, ship time. We hoped to meet Princess Clara at the palace when we arrived, so we're all tired and a little out of sorts. Indara pulled a chair out for Adam and slipped into the one beside him, while Riley, Cellier, and Farilla fanned out around the room out of habit. No one knows where she is. It's alarming, considering the circumstances. Adam started drumming his fingers on the chair arm before stopping himself. She's taken guards, but someone should know where she is. Your Highness, I assure you, I know precisely where the princess is. Raylan folded her hands over her stomach, complacently. The interior is charged with the safety of your family. We do not fail to keep a watchful eye on you. No matter what, Sel asked. Who's watching you when you're all watching us? We watch one another. Constantly, I assure you. We're very good at it. Minister Raylan bowed her head graciously, even as she waved the question away. I can tell you with reasonable certainty that at this particular moment Princess Clara is safe and in good hands. And we're just hearing about this now? Adam growled. What the hell kind of safety do you call that? Your Highness, I'm certain that your concern is genuine, which is why I want to put your minds at ease, Raylan said, unfazed. That said, protecting your safety includes protecting your privacy, even from other members of the royal family who might take a keen interest. I can assure you that there was a great deal of interest when you were married. This is simply a case where discretion is, how did you put it once, a two-way street, I believe. Fine. Adam settled back into the chair, not looking much happier. I get that includes when it's inconvenient, but right now is pretty damn inconvenient. While some of our junior officers can be rash, I assure your Highness that the interior does try and take the long view. Meaning not pissing off whoever ends up sitting on the throne. Adam crossed his arms. Fuck! I hate feeling like I'm a kid sitting at the big table. Your Grace, I'm well aware of your history, and I have no temptation to treat you as anything other than an adult, Raylan said with a wintry smile. As to your question, it's the former, I assure you. Taking sides in such matters means that eventually you pick the wrong one. As I said, the long view. Fine, Adam sighed. So, what brought you out here to meet with us? As to that... Raylan brought out a data chip and set it on the desk between Adam and Indara. I was conferring with the High Advocate regarding the matter of Mr. Warwick. There is the matter of his will and testament. We haven't heard from Dr. Khalil, is he... Alive, so far as I am aware. Raylan shook her head. However, given that the document now poses a possible security risk, it became necessary to review it. To prevent upset to the immediate party, it's customary for the nearest relative to review such material. With the Empress away..." She nodded at Indara. "That would be Her Royal Highness." "As well as determine if there are any matters involving security." Indara picked up the data chip, turning it over in her hands before handing it to Adam. "High Advocate, if my family, and I might presume..." "My office is very well shielded, Your Royal Highness." The elderly Adixi rose again, crossing heavily to the door with the minister. "We'll be outside when you've finished." Adam watched the door close. What is it with Adixi lawyers? "They're naturals," Classy shrugged. "They get to swim very slowly around something for a lot of money, until they're ready to bite." Slip shook her head. "This is ridiculous. How can she be safe on the loose like this?" "It isn't, really." Sel moved to one of the empty seats at the table. "On the loose, that is. She's taking risks being out, but if she doesn't trust people in the palace..." "This is probably her idea of being a moving target," Ferry nodded. "Adam, if there's anything odd in this..." Classy looked at their husband expectantly, and he pulled out his Omnipad and pulled up the files. "Not much here. The will says he leaves everything he has to Maver Pelavon, and a few effects to some of his students. Looks like he doesn't own much. There's 3 attachments. A letter for Pelavon and her Koli Pabrin, a music file for his funeral, and one for his ladies in private." Adam thumbed through them. "Interesting. Haven't heard Over the Hills in years, but his file said he was former military. I guess he felt pretty far from home. Don't know the other one, but Dylan was a little before my time." "Then this shouldn't take long," Slip nodded. "We can get out of here and track her down." "True." Classy folded her hands and canted her head. "Let's hear them, please, Adam." "All right. I suppose the letter first." He swiped open the file and cleared his throat. "My very dear ladies, in my life I have found too many occasions when it was too late to say what was in my heart. We have each been the victim of lost opportunities, and so, should I be unable, I felt compelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eyes, if things go badly and I am no more. I was ready for the end of my life when you found me, Miver. You opened your heart to me, and it was big enough to build a new world around, leaving the old one behind. That new world only grew stronger and richer with you, Shalea. Thanks to you both, I have no misgivings about the actions that brought me to Shill. Despite such a daunting change, my heart has not halted or faltered because of you. While I'm suspicious of these people who I do not feel have my welfare at heart, I believe this weekend's interview will help the future, so I have obeyed the need, hoping that understanding may accomplish more than the force of arms. Still, events can go badly wrong, and if you are reading this, they have done so. I know how deeply the future of humanity leans on the perception of our place within the Empire, and when living memory fades of the Imperium's arrival, how much will rest on the shoulders of the young women who step forward to lead it. Despite the debts we owe to the past, humanity cannot live there and must look to that future, just as I look forward to my future with you. I am perfectly willing to lay down all the sorrows of the past and all the joys in this life if I have helped to pay off that debt. You renewed the fire of life in my heart, but I know that if you are reading this, I have laid down not only my joy, but laid down your own, replacing them in life with a weight of sorrow. My love for you both coming too soon to an end. I cannot describe to you my feelings as I write to you tonight, before going out tomorrow. I loved one woman in my life before leaving Earth, and now have loved 3. Please know that my love for you both is deathless. It binds my heart with great chains, and yet only my desire for love of my people takes me from you. The memories of all the blissful moments I have spent with you come over me, and I feel deeply grateful that I have enjoyed them. If you are reading this, you must know how hard it is for me to give them up, and burn to ashes the hope of future days we might have lived and loved together. If I am granted even an instant of breath at my end, I will whisper your names. Please forgive my faults and any pains I've caused you. In learning this new world, how foolish I have sometimes been, like a child in a wilderness. How gladly I would wash away any blemish upon your happiness, and shield your joys from harm. If the dead have any reach upon this life, and move unseen about those they love, I shall always be with you. You have been my shelter from the storm, and if the soft breeze fans your cheeks, I hope that it is my breath or my spirit passing by. Do not mourn for my passing, because if by grace it is allowed, then we shall meet again. Tom Warwick. Adam looked up at the sniffles. Ferry was wiping her eyes and Sel's lip trembled. Slip sat down heavily. Adam, Classy swallowed, but tried looking unmoved. It wasn't working well. Let's hear the music, just to be thorough. Your Highness. Mike Khalil's voice answered after a few seconds, and Adam breathed a sigh of relief. Hey, Doc, look, I don't have a lot of time here. What's the latest on Warwick? He suffered from heavy trauma, but he's starting to stabilize. I think I can bring him out of the induced coma today. Mike paused for a moment. I had to dip into your blood supplies or I probably would have lost him. Fortunately, you're both type O. Yeah, I'm fine with that. We're going to be on chill for a while and I'll get some more drawn. Adam leaned up against the wall. Raylin and Potak were on the far side of the foyer looking his way, but like everything else Shilvanti, the place was big enough to be an apartment. I want to be there when you bring him out. I need him to be alright. I was going to do it in an hour or two. Are you acquainted? We had to read his last wishes, Doc. Now I have a room full of women crying their eyes out. Adam glanced back to the office door. I need to write my wives a letter, so this guy better pull through. Ah, well, I did say any marriage that inconvenient must surely be for love. Yeah, blow me. I'm coming over after we wrap things up here. If this guy doesn't make it, my wives are gonna kill me. I'm not upset, Slip said. You look upset, Adam said, as they wound through the hospital corridors. I'm not upset. I just hate wearing this dressy crap, Slip quietly groused, keeping his arm through hers. I hate being in the capital, much less anywhere near Kriantori, and I hate hospitals. Could be worse, he shrugged. Indara has to go back to the palace, and Sel and Ferry are along for that ride. Would you rather be pawed at by some of those people? I get it. Really, I do, she huffed. I just want to find out what's going on, and instead we have to play dress-up. I know, but while we're visible, it's got to be OPSEC. That doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. Just chill. I'll go in with the doc. And I'll spend time in the waiting room with his girlfriends. That'll be fun. Just make nice? I've seen you do this before. Adam grinned back at her and paused at the door to the ICU. You're better at this kind of thing than you want to admit. It's not like I have anything in common with these women, Slip exhaled and stepped inside. Across the waiting room, a woman sat slumped in one of the chairs. Hearing the door, she looked up. Slip's mouth went dry as she stared, feeling 10 years old all over again. Miss Lennar? So you're Lady Pellevon's co-blipabrine? Slip tried not to sound wooden. Of all the people on Shield to meet, or even from Creantori, my school teacher. I was married. I just never went by my full name when I was teaching. Shalea Lennar Co-Pellevon? It's a bit of a mouthful, Shalea said. After the initial surprise of the meeting, she was starting to look worn out. I worried about you when you up and disappeared. I didn't think anyone would notice. Riley Tonhari, you were many things, and sometimes a pain in my backside, but I always thought you had promise. Shalea sniffed and smiled faintly. Could have knocked me over with a feather when I saw your wedding, though. Yeah, that kind of surprised me too. Slip bit her lip and tried not to fidget. Miss Lennar, Shalea, had managed to scrub the ums from her vocabulary. Why did she feel like saying it now? How did you come to be with a human? Well, my co met him after we were widowed. We stayed together. It's a long story. I get it. Slip folded her hands on her lap, feeling like she was back in class. You're here alone? Miver and Desi. Long story there, too. Neither of them had any sleep in almost 3 days, and now they're tucked into one of the family rooms. You look exhausted. I haven't slept much myself, but we're trying to take things in turns. The doctor said they're going to try and bring him out of the coma, and we can visit later today. Shalea rubbed her eyes. I've been sitting here an hour trying to think of who to pray to. I'm not very religious, but I don't know anything about human goddesses. Mostly they just have one. A god, no goddesses. Slip shrugged. My husband isn't much about that, but he cusses up a storm now and then when, well, things happen. Just one god? Yeah. One man in charge of everything? All alone for eternity? That's what he says, she nodded. Well, if that's who they pray to, it's no damn wonder humans are so fucking insane. Slip nearly choked. You curse? Your Highness, we're not in class now, are we? I guess not. Slip lay a hand on top of Shalea's. As the passage of years faded. They're pretty tough, though, humans. He better be. Shalea settled herself in her chair, slowly shaking her head. If he pulls another stunt like this, I'm going to kill him. You know what happened then? Slip looked up. Enough. Some half-crazed admiral who was on Earth saw him in a uniform, went berserk, and came after him and some students with a knife. Shalea sighed, then peered over at her sharply. So, why are you here? Tom floated. Awareness returned slowly. His eyes felt glued shut, but one cracked open, and he flinched as the light played over them. There was a face. Mr. Warwick. A human face. No one he knew. The light kept playing over him and he flinched away, opening one eye more. Mr. Warwick, my name is Michael Khalil. I'm your doctor. Can you understand me? His tongue felt dry when he tried to speak. The light moved off his face and his left eye started opening. It felt gummy, and he groaned. Water, he whispered. Right here. Khalil leaned in, offering a straw to his lips, and he sucked gratefully. Mr. Warwick, you've suffered substantial internal trauma to your stomach and intestinal tract. We've had you under for 3 days and you've stabilized. Right now, you're on heavy pain medication, but I'm going to sit your bed up. I want you to take it easy, though. Human doctor? He shook his head. Christ, I must have been dreaming. You're not dreaming, Mr. Warwick. He looked over. In the corner of the room was another human face, and memory stirred. A familiar face. The outfit. The news. Fuck. Alright. Not dreaming, Tom sighed. Memories began to stir sluggishly. I'm pleased to meet you, Your Royal. Skip it. Just call me Adam, the man said, leaning forward. I'm too visible in this get-up and I don't have the time, and you're not in any condition. Memories stirred faster. Shit! Melondi, is she... She is alive, thanks to you. McGinnis nodded. They all are. This whole mess is getting a cover story, but I wanted to be here when you wake up so you don't say the wrong things about the wrong people. Relief washed over him. He felt more awake now. You're a prince of the Imperium. Why are you here at all? You already know who your student is. The doctor slipped out the door as McGinnis got up and moved to the side of his bed. I thought you'd rather hear this from another human instead of a shill. Besides, there are some questions I wanted to ask if you're feeling up to it. Nesfa pulled up her Omnipad and swiped through her contacts. The trip to Willis was only 3 days, but it wasn't worth it for a week away. She was still on campus. NR. Belle, are you there? I have something I found out. It's kind of pissed me off and I need to talk to your boyfriend a bit. I have an idea and wanted to see if there's something we can do about it. Roaming around the house, she was halfway to the kitchens when her Omnipad pinged. Belle S. Gardish, sure. Things got crazy for a bit. I guess there will be more on that later. Now I'm going spare, just sitting here with nothing to do. What do you need? Her mothers were out, working some deal. Her sister was off doing who cared what. But if she went through with this and they found out... Fuck it. NR. Remember how worked up Liam got when we were talking before the show? I found something out and I have an idea. Can you both meet with me? Belle S. I'll call him. When is good for you? NR. Anytime. I need some fresh air. Seriously? You used a fucking katana? Adam unbuttoned the top of his jacket as he lounged back in the chair. I didn't have a lot of options. Anyway, I didn't have the elbow room for Hollywood swordplay, stuffed in an aisle. Warwick grinned, though he stopped laughing after the first time. Well, it worked. Adam shook his head and drew a finger across his neck. Took her head clean off and only stopped at her armor. Tom shrugged, then sighed. I suppose they've confiscated the katana. The interior took it, but I'll get it put in your rooms. Be a fucking shame to let something like that gather dust in an evidence locker. Adam leaned forward, rubbing his chin. Anyway, we need to talk. You're there, you know what's going on now, and you're in this. Kelly's like my niece and a good kid. Can we count on you going forward? I'm getting a little old to go around rescuing a princess for a hobby. Well, get on your fucking hobby horse. Adam leaned in on his elbows. We have 6 teams of death heads there, and they're going to boost it up to 8. My family and I can stick around a bit, but we're visible. We have to be in the public eye, and Kelly deserves to finish what she started, if that's what she wants. It's good to see you care about her, Tom said after a moment. I do, too. Quite a lot. So, where does this leave things? Officially, Tasia went nuts after too much trauma. The story stays the same and you get a lot of press. Adam settled back slightly as Warwick digested it. The Shill are crazy about family. Something like this is going to make the news. You get to be a big goddamn hero. Another interview. I can hardly wait, Tom said dryly. What about unofficially? Unofficially, Kelly isn't at the academy. She's written out. Everything else is the same. Adam shrugged his shoulders once. As cover stories go, it doesn't suck. Not a lot to remember. And you have the royal family's thanks. Anything you want, just name it. What? Seriously? Serious as hell. Indara's already signed off on that, but you have my word Kami's gonna back it up. Kami? Yeah, Her Imperial Highness, Empress, etc. Adam grinned. So, is there anything? Actually, 3 things do come to mind. And that's what he wants. Adam settled back and studied his drink. After making it back to the palace and getting out of the dress uniform, it felt good to relax over a briefing with the girls. I offered him the keys to the kingdom, and that's all he wanted. I tried telling you. Kalira grinned with satisfaction and squeezed Class's hand. You spoke with him. If you think he's sincere, that shouldn't be hard. We can have a few words with Potak. Classy smiled at her cousin, but then rubbed her chin pensively. So, you definitely don't think he's any danger to Kalira? Dara? Kalira pursed her lips. Nah, Warwick thinks she's great. Anyway, when he woke up enough, he was mostly honked off about his footwork. His footwork? Ferry blinked. Yeah, didn't think he had enough room in the yard to cut and sidestep, Adam grinned. Said his sensei would have been pissed. So, you think we can take Warwick off the watch list? Sel leaned over the desk on me, poking at files. What about his girlfriends? They're good, Slip spoke up, before taking a long drink. Trust me. We'd have looked into that anyway. Classy arched an eyebrow. That business with Pellavon's niece is disturbing. So now we have to dig. It's not going to be easy being in the public eye. Adam shook his head. Hell, we're here on Shill and have less room to maneuver than anywhere else in the whole damned empire. It's necessary. Classy shook her head. When the Empress returns, there's going to be the formal funeral, then a month in seclusion. Right now, we're the only part of the royal family home in the capital. There's no way we can evade scrutiny right now. We've done well just to manage a day. So what? Kelly is on her own? Ferry shook her head. You're sure you want to go back? That's what I want, Kalira said firmly. I started this, but now I have a stake in it. My friends are there, I don't want to disappear, and as long as my cover is still good, I don't have to. Someone knew where you were, Sel pointed out with a grimace. Then they know where to find me wherever I go. Kalira shook her head. I want to stick this out. With the cover story we can nose about, Classy said after a moment. A violent crime like that? Every noble with a daughter at the academy will expect us to put in an appearance. If you all circulate, I can meet with your handler. Agent Davari. Kalira shook her head. I can't believe she's my handler. That woman's a Grinshaw. Special Agent Davari, Indara corrected her, and all in good time. For now, you maintain your cover and let me do the talking. Understood? All right, Kalira grimaced, then brightened. But hey, that means you'll get to see my school. You'll love Professor Pellavon. Imagine you knowing her co. What are the odds? Slip pursed her lips before taking another drink. Actually, I think I want to meet her, though. That settles that, then. A dress visit to the campus to show our support and concern. As long as nothing else distracts us, we should be out of the spotlight in a few weeks. Classy nodded. You know what that means. Fine, but my suit's going to be underneath, and I am not wearing those fucking choppings. Adam sighed and rubbed his forehead. Anyone else have anything? Just one thing. Kalira looked around at her family. Can one of you teach me how to really use a knife? There are several necessary traits that an assassin must develop to be effective. The agent always believed that introspection was undervalued and should certainly be at the top of the list. She knew her skills, and for a novelty, this was the first time she'd ever returned to the scene of a crime. That was unconventional, a departure from her routine. Unlike any other circumstance, she never would have considered the work, but her employer had performed flawlessly the last time. And then there was the pay. Say what you would about the Alliance, it had a reliable banking system. Without at least a commonly agreed system of currency, the government, such as it was, would have fallen apart within a few years. As fractious, inefficient, and generally politically ridiculous as the Alliance was, their banks worked, and that was useful. Even by imperial standards, the consortium had a banking system without peer. It was rumoured that, if needs be, a consortium revenue office could track down every single credit, or any single credit. While commendable, it made laundering money from outside the consortium impossible. The Alliance, on the other hand? Alliance credits were an agreed-upon system, binding almost all their constituent economies into one agreed standard of valuation. It was the only thing that allowed trade to go on, but, there were so many constituent economies. For extra-legal employment, Alliance credits were a gift from the goddess. She'd insisted on ducats from Ranrakor II. It wasn't just a lot of money, it was a fortune. It involved the kind of numbers the word fortune was made for. Anything else fell short, but the work deserved a fortune. She'd always believed in providing value for money. After all, it was a two-part contract, filled with nuance, subtlety. Reasonable people understood when things cost extra. Even taking half in advance, she could easily retire to a life of fabulous luxury, but that was the trick. The advance was a surety. Her employer was committed, and now she was committed to following through. Anyone with those sorts of assets could track her down if she failed to perform. That was also assured. Not that she intended to fail. The reward was too great, and the first job had proven her employer's bona fides. Returning was a risk, but the reward was just too great. She needn't worry about her employer tracking her down. After her work was complete, Imperial space would never be safe again. She had all the details in place to be certain no one would come looking for her, but they would never stop looking. Of course, the job would have been appalling to anyone else. That was the joy of being a sociopath. It left you blissfully free of the ravages of regret. Killing people was wrong. She understood that, of course. She simply didn't care, and it allowed her to charge extra. Risk versus reward, on the other hand, that was clinical, objective. The rewards were tangible, and she'd certainly take pleasure in those. She knew how to earn her money. Of course, this job had taken time. Crossing the terrain had taken ages, but it was needful. If there had been the slightest indication that her employer's overrides were no longer in place, then contract or no, she had the option to disengage. That was understood. Once taken, the job was binding, particularly given something of this magnitude. But she wasn't being paid to take unwarranted risks. It was a task, not a suicide mission. At least tonight hadn't been anticlimactic. The risks of a repeat performance gave it novelty. The edge, the spice, was just a little thing, and her employer had come through. Only the manner of the job had proven irksome. These things tended to be direct. Options like this cost extra, and nothing about this job was simple. The misdirection, though, that was a work of art. In a way, the second task laying ahead was almost disappointing. It would be something of a personal culmination, a capstone to her career, a final flourish before she retired on the far side of Alliance space. She already had ideas about how to accomplish it, but none of them needed the sheer endurance this job required. It really was that much money. Now all that remained was laying a false trail, then the long trek out. She couldn't afford to leave a single trace, which also made it a personal challenge. The immediate reward would be getting home, a shower, a reasonable meal. Once everything was complete, she'd slowly fade away from her identity. No rush, nothing conspicuous. Then she could leave the Imperium forever, far from Shill, and Ran Rakor too. The first task was already complete. One down, one to go. Barely awake, Jacksme lay back in bed and lolled about in her underwear. It wasn't even 8 in the morning, but after getting up early for classes, it felt absolutely decadent. She rolled back over, half under the blanket. At least her rooms were comfortably warm. The dorm stinted a bit on heat when fall arrived. Okay, it helped you get out of bed, but now she was home, and the simple act of sleeping in felt wonderful. No class to get up for. Oh shit! Sleep fled like a receding wave, and she bolted up in bed, grabbing for her Omnipad. Yesterday's unbelievable news of a royal warrant for her company had set her parents back in shock, but the news that followed. Professor Warwick was in the hospital. None of the girls knew much, and half of them seemed out of reach. She'd texted Deshin, but aside from a brief note back, there was no news. She pulled up her text messages. Nothing new since last night. Swiping aside that, she drew up the news and stared at the headline. Kellark ran her hand through her hair. Another day with no class to get up for, and no work at the night desk. Being home from the academy for the holiday was, well, an actual holiday. Nothing to do but organize her notes and think about her story for the school vlog, and, yes, deal with Bree. What a story, too. I need to see how the professor is, and edit. Fuck. I had to edit the hell out of it if I don't want Kalira to hammer me. Still, what I've got. Holy goddess. She sniffed, cradled her tea, and looked around her apartment. Being home also meant no hot breakfast waiting in the cafeteria, no staff cleaning the halls. It meant housework. 2 months of dust lay everywhere. Back to reality. At least she had time to pull up the newsfeed and catch up with the headlines before starting to write. Reading the hard copy was always... Lark stared as a chill of dismay swept through her. Tragedy strikes twice. Princess Satora kidnapped from parents' estate. Child taken at night. Province-wide search on. Princess Satora, the youngest daughter of Prince Loral and Lady Aurelea, was kidnapped between 10 and midnight last night from her bedroom on the 2nd floor of the family estate, near Retfar Woods in Selnanak Province. The kidnapping was carried out after the children were abed, and after staff retired for the evening. The children's nurse, Mr. Bergwijn, visited about 9 p.m. and found everything in order. However, when he returned on a late-night check, her rooms were empty, and an open window bore mute testimony to how the child was taken. Mr. Bergwijn alerted Lady Waweth and estate security, who determined that the intrusion detection system, IDS, at the window had been expertly disabled. Satisfied there was no mistake, and that Princess Setora was not simply elsewhere in the estate, Lady Waweth contacted Countess Raylene, Her Imperial Majesty's Minister of the Interior. Countess Raylene proceeded directly to the estate and began searching the grounds with the help of the staff. Estate swept. Beneath the bedroom window there were marks where a ladder had stood, and the footprints of one person. However, initial reports have disclosed there were no shoe prints. The kidnapper apparently wore wide slippers to minimize sound and obscure actual tracks. 50 feet away at the edge of the wood, staff found a makeshift ladder that has not been identified as belonging to the estate. The execution of this act, along with disabling the IDS, lead this reporter to believe the act is a highly planned action by an enemy of the Empire. The search of the estate was interrupted by the arrival of a full detachment of Interior agents that had been requested by Minister Raylene, and the hunt began anew. Disturbed undergrowth was discovered, leading to the nearest road, where the trail disappeared. The kidnapper, or kidnappers, evidently entered a vehicle at that point. Imperial security has begun a search of all traffic in the area, as well as a detailed check of surveillance footage. Lady Waweth, who is minding the estate in the prince's absence, has issued a statement that all questions should be directed to Imperial security. Sources have reported that a note demanding ransom had been left in the bedroom. However, the Ministry of the Interior has declined all comment at this time. Agents guard estate as hunt begins. Shill awakens to calamity. A full garrison of agents has begun scouring the grounds and questioning staff, while local authorities have begun checking vehicles throughout the surrounding province. Shock and outrage at the theft of the princess has already begun to spread this morning as